I have a question this week, and I used to think I had an answer to it. Shalom, my friends. As you can see, I'm not yet back on my feet, so I am still broadcasting from home. But yes, this question is one of the great issues of life, and I used to think I had an answer for it. Now, I'm not so sure. The question is this: if God is both good and all-powerful, why is there evil in the world? Why do terrible things sometimes happen to good people? Well, let's start by acknowledging that human beings are the source of some evil in the world, and that's easy to explain. God gave us free will. Sometimes it's used to do terrible things to others. For example, I don't blame God for the Holocaust. I blame the Nazis for the Holocaust. But not all evil is man-made. What about earthquakes, floods, tornadoes, and hurricanes? What about disease, especially painful when it affects children and cuts short their lives? Does God cause these things? Does God allow these things? And if we answer yes to either of these questions, then we have to ask, is God in fact good? So let's start with the Bible. Not because it is going to make things easier for us, but actually because it further complicates the issue. In Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7, we read, "I form light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these." It's likely that your translation of the Bible reads differently, but that is because so many translators and so many others are so uncomfortable with this verse. But the original Hebrew is clear as a bell. And yet this verse is quoted in Hebrew in the Jewish prayer book, and the ancient sages who compiled the prayer book changed the Hebrew text. Instead of saying, "I create evil," they changed it to, "I create all things." Struggling with the presence of evil in the world created by a good God is hardly an issue only for us today. People have struggled with this for millennia. Now, as I said, I had an answer to this, and it worked for me for many years. It was not my own thinking. It came from the great Rabbi Harold Kushner, may he rest in peace, in his book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. I did a tribute to Rabbi Kushner a few weeks ago. You might want to look at that video. His argument was that God could be all good or all powerful, but not both. He was not prepared to compromise on God's goodness, so he did so regarding God's omnipotence. Please understand, he believed God was so powerful that he created the universe. But he stopped short of concluding that because God created the universe, it meant God's power had no limitations. That answer worked for me until last week, when I heard a very compelling argument on one of my favorite radio broadcasts, in which the host argued that to limit God's power is to make God less than fully God. Now that's me paraphrasing the host. I don't have his exact words in front of me, so I can't quote him. But I think that's a fair summary of his argument. that if you take away God's omnipotence, God is no longer God. Am I convinced by that? Let's just say I'm convinced that this argument cannot be ignored, and I feel compelled to struggle with it. If you do so as well, I would love it if you share your thoughts in the comments section below the video. Now, I can say that there is some common ground that Rabbi Kushner, the radio host, and I all share. None of us believe that God chooses to send a curable cancer to one child, a fatal cancer to another child, and good health to a third. But is God limited to the extent that he cannot cure all childhood cancers? Or could he cure them, but chooses not to, for reasons we will never understand in this lifetime? Is ultimate justice and fairness reserved for the hereafter? I've wrestled with these questions all my religious life, and I suppose I will continue to wrestle with them until maybe, emphasis on maybe because I have no way of knowing, but maybe in the world to come, my questions will finally be answered. Until then, I take comfort in the fact that believers have to account for the existence of only one thing, evil. Atheists have to account for the existence of everything else. I hope you found this presentation thought-provoking. If you did, please hit the like button so that YouTube will show it to even more viewers. 2 ways that you can support the work of this channel appear in the description box below the video. And if you would like to simply subscribe to the channel, please click on my face right over there, or to see the last video I released, click on its icon right over there. As ever, until next time, Shabbat Shalom.